Hey, hi y'all. Michael Didier here. So glad you're there. Last week we left off in, where was it? Numbers 19. We're scheduled to go to Numbers 20, but from 19 to 20, there's a 38-year gap. Well, we're in the wilderness and we're just getting ready to go into the promised land. At least our incursion into the promised land. We have to go through some Amorites to get there, in where Moab was and where, forget what the other, Bashan. We're going to go to King of Bashan. We got to conquer him also. So there's some things that we got to cover, but before we do that, I thought we'd go through Yasher. I was supposed to go back to Yasher when we finished 17 of Numbers, but I decided that if I waited, I could make a whole class out of all the things that we have to do before we get to 22 of Numbers. So let's go through this today. We left off, it was the second month of the second year that we left Sinai. And we went to this place, Kevrot Hata'ava, and some people got there. They lusted after their flesh, and we had the quail come into the camp, and people got sick, and they lost a bunch of people. Miriam also was at this spot, got leprosy because she criticized Moses, if you remember. So we're picking it up here. We have just arrived in Kazarot, is how you say that, and pitched our tent at the end of the wilderness of Paran. You know what? I want to open up a map today. I haven't done it yet. I apologize. I usually try to be prepared for this. But I think a map would really help us to kind of visualize what's going on. And we're going to use it quite a bit today, I think. It's opening currently. I got to select the correct map. So we're going to open my main map. And here we are. I'll bring it over to your side. Okay. Here we are. We left Sinai, the wilderness of Sinai. We were probably camping here. There was a distance, not a great distance, between where we camped and Sinai itself, where Moses went up, where the Israelites went up and got the Ten Commandments. I said the Israelites, the men, the Ezra men, not the Ger, not their kids, not their wives, just the Ezra men went up. Spiritual Israel. They left here in the second month, and they are just now arriving here in Kadesh. It says on the wilderness of Paran, at the edge of the wilderness of Paran. Now, I put Kadesh here. This is mine. I put a question mark by it. But they do have a Kadesh Barnea. I don't think that's in it because this is the wilderness of sin, and we're going to talk about the wilderness of sin later on. So I'm guessing that we're in this area currently. We're about to send up spies. Well, we'll come back to this when we do that, because we're gonna be right back here in just a moment. It says, at that time, Yehovah spoke to Moses, send 12 men from Israel's seed, one man to a tribe. Remember, we've got 13 tribes, but he's not counting the Levites. He's counting the other 12. Remember, Joseph was replaced by Ephraim and Manasseh to go and explore the land of Canaan. And I've got some verses that show us in Numbers where it actually says exactly the same thing. And Moses sent the 12 men, and they came to the land of Canaan to search and examine it. And they explored the whole land from the wilderness of sin, wilderness of sin. There we are, the wilderness of sin. It was Zin on our map. To Rakav, as thou comest to Kamot. Kamot. We're going to see Hamath is what really is, should be Kamot. It's all about how the Hebrew is translated into the English. So let me go to our map again. That's not the map. Here's the map. All right. And so what we're talking about, and I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Here is the wilderness of Zin. We're going to go from there. They're going to spy out the land all the way up to here. I don't know if you can see this here. This is Kamat. Kamat Zoba. Kamot. Zoba. And so this is as you go towards Hamat. There it is at Lebo Hamat. Must be perhaps a water point. I don't know what that is. It could be a city. All right, so let me now zoom in a little bit. Here is the entrance to that pathway between the two mountain peaks, two groups of mountains. As you go through there, here is Rakav. I think they put a question mark there. I kind of feel like Rakav should be up in this area more, because usually when we're talking about exploring Israel, we usually say something like Dan to the wilderness of Zin. They didn't here. There's other places where they do, though. So you just have to be aware of that and kind of understand what they're talking about. So here they are. And at the end of 40 days, they came to Moses and Aaron. They, the 12 men, came to Moses and Aaron. And they brought him, Moses and Aaron, word as it was in their hearts. And 10 of the men brought an evil report to Israel's seed of the land which they had explored, saying, it is better for us to return to Egypt than to go to this land, a land that consumes its inhabitants. Not a good report. Certainly not putting faith into the rest of Israel. It says, but Yahushua, remember his name is Yahushua, the son of Nun, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, who were of those that explored the land, said, the land is exceedingly good. If Yehovah delights in us, then he will bring us to this land and give it to us, for it is a land flowing with milk and honey. And Israel's seed would not hearken to them, but they hearkened to the words of the 10 men who had brought up an evil report to the land. And Yehovah heard the murmurings of Israel's seed, and he was angry and swore, saying, surely not one man of this wicked generation shall see the land from 20 years old and upward, excepting Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, and Yahushua, the son of Nun. But surely this wicked generation shall perish in the wilderness, and their sons shall come to the land, and they shall possess it. I say sons because we're talking about who's going to possess the land. Ladies don't possess land. Men do. So the anger of Yehovah was kindled against Israel, and he made them wander in the wilderness for 40 years until the end of that wicked generation, because they did not follow Yehovah. Remember, there was 603,550 men. All of them but 2 are going to die in the wilderness and not see the promised land. Actually, it's a little bit more than that, because even Aaron and Moses are not going to go into the promised land. And the people dwelt in the wilderness of Paran a long time. And they afterwards, wilderness of Paran, that's what we were just showing you on the map, the wilderness of Paran. And afterwards, they went to the wilderness by way of the Red Sea. Remember that. Wilderness. Well, let's go there. What does that mean? Wilderness by way of the Red Sea. Here they are, wilderness of Paran. Oh, I guess we go way down here. All right. Expand this a little bit. Here we are. There's the wilderness of Zin, where they explored from there all the way up to Rakav, as you go to Gamat. And now here we are, again, in the wilderness of Paran, which they're going to stay for a while. But then it's talking about the wilderness of the Red Sea. Now, could that be the Sinai Peninsula? Or are we talking about perhaps down into this area, again, the wilderness of Sinai? I don't know. It's not clear enough for us to really get a good idea. So let's continue reading. It says, at that time, Korah, the son of Yasher, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, took many men of Israel's seed. Remember, we saw this, 14,000, almost 15,000 men are going to die on this day, including the 10 men that gave the evil report. And they rose up and quarreled with Moses and Aaron and the whole congregation. Not a good idea to quarrel with Moses and Aaron. You're going to lose. That holds true for today, too. And Yehovah was angry with them. And the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up with their houses and all belonging to them and all the men belonging to Korah. Now, does this mean Korah's seed was extinguished? I don't think so. I think he had adult sons that weren't there, because we see in Numbers 26, 9 through 12, let me open this up, that Korah's sons did not die. They're still around. So they're still going to be working in the temple. And after this, Elohim made the people go around by way of Mount Seir for a long time. I put, how long? I think it was a very long time, years. Mount Seir, this is what got me working with AI. I said, where is Mount Seir? Why can't I find Mount Seir? And he pointed out, and I totally agree, that Mount Seir is not a mountain. It's a range of mountains. Let's talk about what that looks like. Here we are here. Let's go out a little bit more. I'll make it 30. That was 30? Wasn't much change. All right, well here, see this? S-E-I-R. This is the mountain range that we're talking about right now. So what did it say about that mountain range? Let's read it again. It said, and after this, Elohim made the people go round by way of Mount Seir for a long time. Where did they go? I think, this is my thoughts. It says, at that time, Yehovah said to Moses, provoke not war against Esau's seed, for I will not give you anything belonging to them, as much as the sole of the foot, could tread upon. Remember, Yehovah already told us every place that we go, we're going to possess. But here he said, you're not even going to get this. It already belongs to Esau's seed. Now, this was Seir's seed's land for a while, but Esau's seed fought a battle and took Seir's land and killed all of Seir's seed. The only ones that remained, we saw this in Yasher, were the women and children. Here we are. Do I need to go here? Yes. We're going in the wilderness by way of the mountains of Seir. It's like we're going around him. I think we probably came up this path where Elath is. This is the King's Highway. And I got a hunch that we hung out in the land of Oz for quite a while. Didn't bother these guys. We contacted them for food, for water when we needed it. We bought it from them. We were very gracious to them. And they weren't fired up about having us in that area either. But I guess they tolerated us. What can they do? Go to war? Yeah, I don't think so. They've had enough wars with us. They had a big war. Ishmael's seed, Moab, fought with them, as did the king of Africa fight with them against Joseph way before. Oh, and Seir's seed. They were still around. They fought. And they lost. They lost 200,000 men. They came with us as the sands of the sea, and Joseph with like 100 men. Hardly any. Maybe it's a little bit more than that, but it wasn't much more than that. Maybe 500. I don't remember clearly. We killed 200,000 men, chased them away. And Seir's seed was mad at Esau's seed, and they fought. That's why they fought. And Esau's seed killed them all and took their land. Made themselves a king. We're going to talk about who the king was today when we talk about the family line of Beor and Balaam and Bela and Balaam and Janus and Beor and Balaam. Oh, there's a line. There's a family tree that we're going to talk about. Very interesting. So let's continue. For I have given Mount Seir for the inheritance of Esau. Yeah, well, Esau took it. Therefore did Esau's seed, oh, here we are right here, fight against Seir's seed in former times. And Yehovah had delivered Seir's seed into the hands of Esau's seed and destroyed them from before them. And Esau's seed dwelt in their stead unto this day. This happened during the time of Joseph. This was our first 100 years, during our first 100 years in Egypt. Remember, we were only there 210 years. Yes, I've got that right. There's much more to learn. Therefore, Yehovah said to Israel's seed, fight not against Esau's seed, your brethren. Your brethren, isn't that interesting? They're so diametrically opposed to one another. They're like arch enemies. For nothing in their land belongs to you, but you may buy food of them for money and eat it. And you may buy water of them for money and drink it. And Israel's seed did according to the word of Yehovah. And Israel's seed went about the wilderness, going round about the way of Mount Sinai for a long time. So they were in that direction. Remember, I was just saying, I thought maybe the wilderness of the Red Sea might be down by Mount Sinai. This looks like what we're talking about, going round by way of Mount Sinai for a long time. And touched not Esau's seed. And they continued in that district for 19 years. 19 years, that's half the time. Not quite half the time. Remember, they were in their second year when the spies came back, and Yehovah told them they had another 40 years. So 19, they're maybe, they're less than 50% through their 40 years at the end of 19 years. Now, at that time, we're going to talk about Latinus, the king of the king of Kittim's seed. Kittim's seed. Do you remember who Kittim is? Kittim is Rome. Latinus, king of Kittim. In the 45th year of his reign, which is the 14th year of Israel's seed's departure from Egypt. So while they were in this district for 19 years, we're talking about the king of Kittim dying in his 45th year, which is the 14th year of Israel's seed in Egypt. So this was the 19th year. That means 5 years before this, Latinus died. Now, why are they telling us this? I think it's just to help us understand the timeline in history. And they buried him in a place, excuse me, which he built himself in the land of Kittim. And Abnas reigned in its place for 38 years. And Israel's seed passed the boundary of Esau's seed in those days. At the end of 19 years, and they came and passed the road of the wilderness of Moab. They came and passed the road of the wilderness of Moab. I think we're still on the King's Highway. But this is not even halfway through our 40-year journey in the wilderness. And Yehovah said to Moses, "Besiege not Moab, and do not fight against them, for I will give you nothing of their land." I will give you nothing of their land. Remember, Moab and Ammon are the sons of Lot by his daughters. And Israel passed by the road of the wilderness of Moab for 19 years, and they did not fight against Moab. Let me show you where Moab is. I always think it helps us to understand. Oh gosh, that's so hard to see. Let me see if I can go a little bit closer. Here is Seir. This is the Seir mountain range. There's S-E-I, and they are here. Sela and Basra are Seir's seeds lands that are going to be taken by Esau. They go to the Zered River. After the Zered River, from here, past the Arnon River, all the way up to this river, Jabbok, I believe it is. I can't read it because the Peniel is in the way. Is the river that we're talking about. And Heshbon is their capital city of Moab. From here is the land of I take it back. This is going to be another giant's land. We're going to get to him because he's going to take Moab's land. We'll talk about that in just a moment. I wanted to show you where Arnon was. I'm sorry, not Ammon, where the children of Ammon are. Let me see if I can do this. If I turn on my political boundaries, this might help us. Here is Ammon, right here. This is where they're at. This is Moab. Remember I said they had Heshbon. And actually, I think Moab's going to go all the way down to here. Actually, I think it goes down to here. It's hard, these boundaries right now. Moab's got quite a large section. But this is Ammon that we're talking about. And we are on the King's Highway right now in our story. Turn these political boundaries off. And here's the King's Highway. They call it the desert road. Is that the same as the King's Highway? Desert road. I guess it's the desert road that they're on. Yeah, it would be the desert road. This is the King's Highway here. And I think the King's Highway got its name when the 5 kings of the north came down to fight against the district that was around the Red Sea and all the cities that were involved in that, Sodom, Gomorrah, and the other 3. Probably where it gets its name, but this turns into the King's Highway. They both merge together. I guess they merge together right here. Must be an important city. Let's continue. And Yehovah said to Moses, besiege not Moab, and do not fight against them, for I will give you nothing of their lands. And Israel's seed passed by the road of the wilderness of Moab. Wilderness of Moab. Wasn't that the wilderness road we were just talking about? I guess that would make sense for 19 years. And they did not fight against them. So is that the same 19 years we were just talking about? I think it is. I'm not sure. It says, and in the 36th year, 36, 19 and 19, 18 and 19, 17 and 19 would give us the 36. That maybe where's we're at. And in the 36th year of Israel's seed departing from Egypt, Yehovah smote the heart of Sihon, king of the Amorites. It was Sihon that was in that portion of land. And look what it says. And he waged war and went forth to fight against Moab's seed. And Sihon sent messengers to Beor, the son of Jannes, the son of Balaam, the son of Beor, the counselor of the king of Egypt, and Balaam, his son, to curse Moab. Let me show you something. This is Beor's family tree. This is not perfect, but I'm going to use it anyway. Beor was not a significant man. This is his tree. But he had 2 sons who were very, very important. Bela, Beor's son, I think he was the eldest son. He was the first king of Edom. He ruled in, it says ruled in Dibnah. I don't think he ruled in Dibnah. I think the king of Angias was the king of Africa. He ruled in Nineveh. This was done by the AI. But he fought against Joseph. Remember, I told you, he brought down a huge army to fight against Joseph. Remember when his father, Joseph, and Esau's father were buried, there was a fight, and Esau died. And one of Esau's sons was the one who was bringing men down to fight against Joseph because they were mad. In fact, one of the main sons, I forget his name right now, we'll get it later. One of his main sons was taken captive with 50, 60 men to Egypt. He later escaped and he went to Nineveh, Africa, king of Africa, and there talked with Balaam. We're going to talk about Balaam in just a second. You know what? This is not a very good map. Let me get a better map of this. I've been working with AI trying to get a nice picture, but it's really been difficult today. Let's go here. And I'm going to go up a bit, because he did have one good copy of this art. Here it is. Okay, this is Beor's family line. But this family always opposed Yehovah's people and ways. So here's Bela. He's going to be the first king of Edom. We were just talking about Bela. It said he ruled in Debonah. He really didn't. He dwelt in Nineveh. It's Africa. He fought against Joseph, and Bela's going to die in that big battle. Balaam, his brother, also Beor's son, was a wise man who practiced witchcraft. He was a counselor to Pharaoh in Egypt. He opposed Moses and Israel through counsel. There was one point where the king was wondering what they were going to do with Israel because they're growing too fast. And they had to kill the males. And Balaam and what was the name of Moses' father-in-law? You guys remember right offhand? Raul was one of his names. He's got a couple of names. He was also a counselor with Balaam. And he counseled to leave Israel alone. And the Pharaoh at that time was the evil Pharaoh. He did not like him to say that. And instead, he took Balaam's ideas and threw the men, threw all Israel's seed into the water to drown them. Well, that man was killed with Midian. Later on. This guy, Balaam, he was with the king of Africa in Nineveh. Then when the king of Africa lost against Rome, Latinus, he went to Latinus and he counseled Latinus. And then when Rome started losing battles, then he went to Egypt. He always went to the winning side and always counseled, with appeared to be wisdom, but it was not demonic-based, Satan-based wisdom. Seems good, but it wasn't what Yehovah wanted. He knew what Yehovah wanted. They all knew Yehovah, but they opposed Yehovah and his ways. Sounds a lot like the Khazarians to me. Sounds a lot like the deep state. Even the Catholic Church, for that matter. Oh, Michael, I can't believe you said that. He opposed Moses and Israel through counsel. He was killed in Midian. Then there was Janus and Jambres. Do you remember Janus and Jambres? Moses threw down a stick. It turned to a snake. Janus and Jambres put down their sticks, and it turned into a snake. See, we can do it too. You're not so big. But they did a couple of the things, Moses, the next thing he did was turn things into blood. Well, they turned things into blood too, but how was that? Could you turn it from blood back into water? No, they turned more water into blood. So, they were doing things, but they were actually helping, not hurting. Well, they resisted Moses, signs and message. And in the end, they were exposed and defeated because there was things that finally they said, this is the hand of Yehovah, or this is the arm of Yehovah. And they said, we can't do it. So they were exposed. Then Janus had Beor. Beor the younger. There was another Beor. Remember the first Beor. That's the head of the family back in Nineveh. Now another Beor is born. And see, this is where it gets confusing for a lot of people. They think it's the same guy. He's a descendant of Balaam, lived in Pethor. Pethor is, let me show you where Pethor is, because this is in Mesopotamia. This is another reason I went this week to talk to the AI find out where it was. And I said, oh, yeah, of course, I know that. Here it is. We're going to have to make this a very small map to get up there quickly. And we're going to go all the way up to here. This is Mesopotamia, this whole area here, the Tigris and the Euphrates. The city that we were just talking about is on one of these two rivers. That's where Beor and Balaam, his son, which we haven't talked about yet, those are the ones that we're going to see in Numbers 24. Pethor. They lived in Pethor, somewhere along these two rivers. I don't know where it is. It doesn't seem like anybody does. He, Beor, the younger, as opposed to the older, this one, no, the original one, the one who had the two boys, Balaam and Bela, continued in occult lineage. They had a connection, an evil connection. He's the father of Balaam, the prophet of Moab. You call him the prophet of Moab, but it's Balaam and Beor. I think, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Beor didn't go. Maybe it was just Balaam that went, but we'll find out. Let's kind of keep that in mind. Did Balaam and Beor go to Moab when they go to the king that's going to take Moab? What was his name that we were just talking about? The Amorite king. They tried to curse. Oh no, they did. They're going to curse Moab for this king because Moab's going to be taken by this king. Yeah, that's right. He was eventually going to be slain by Israel's sword. Balaam is with Midian. All right. Well, that's again another long story, but I'm trying to give you basics so that you can kind of bring these back together. Let's continue. Sihon, king of the Amorites. He is calling for Beor. Sihon sent a messenger to Beor, the son of Janus, the son of Balaam, counselor of the king of Egypt, to Balaam his son. So he did call up to both Beor and Balaam to come and curse Moab. They came together in order that it might be delivered into the hand of Sihon. And the messengers went and brought Beor, the son of Janus, and Balaam his son, from Pethor in Mesopotamia. So Beor and Balaam his son came to the city of Sihon, and they cursed Moab and their king in the presence of Sihon, king of the Amorites. And Sihon went out with his whole army, and he went to Moab and fought against them, and he subdued them. And Yehovah delivered them into his hands, and Sihon slew the king of Moab. And Sihon took the cities of Moab in battle. He also took Heshbon. There's Heshbon. We were just showing you the capital city of Moab. From them, for Heshbon was one of the cities of Moab. And Sihon placed his princes and his nobles in Heshbon, and Heshbon belonged to Sihon in those days. Therefore, the parable speakers, who are the parable speakers, Beor and Balaam his son, uttered these words, saying, "Come unto Heshbon, the city of Sihon will be built and established." This is before this was the city of Sihon. This is what was still Heshbon, the city of Moab, that they did this prophecy. Woe unto Moab! I'm saying Moab with the V because that V always, unless it's at the beginning of a word, it has a V sound. So it's Moab. Woe unto Moab! Thou art lost, O people of Chemosh. People of Chemosh I don't know what Kamash is. Could that be another god? Or is that another city? It's not a misspelling of Heshbon. Behold, is it not written in the book of the law? And yeah, it is. Here's what it says. If I can get it to open. This is in Numbers 21:27. We're going to get to that in a couple weeks. Therefore, those who speak in Proverbs say, come to Heshbon and let it be built. Let the city of Sihon be repaired. Yeah, they're predicting that Sihon's going to take that city. And Sihon had conquered Moab. He placed guards in the cities which he had taken from Moab, and a considerable number of Moab's seed fell in battle into the hand of Sihon. And he made a great capture of them, sons and daughters, and he slew their king. So Sihon turned back to his own land. And Sihon gave numerous presents of silver and gold to Beor and to Balaam his son. And they dismissed them, and they went to Mesopotamia, to their home and country. So they went back home. At that time, all Israel's seed passed by the road of the wilderness of Moab and returned and surrounded the wilderness, returned and surrounded the wilderness of Edom. Let's take a look at the map here again. We're talking about the wilderness of Edom. Let's go back down here. To me, putting a map and actually seeing something like this helps to settle it in my mind. Let's go back to, let's say 100. No, that's too much. Let's go to 50. All right. Oh, here we are. Damascus. All right, we said this was the King's Highway, but here is the desert route. Could this be the wilderness of Ammon, and this the wilderness of, actually down here more, the wilderness of Edom? I think so. I think we're in this part of the world right now. But we're going to end up over here eventually. How are we going to get there? We may be going around again. We'll find out. At that time, Israel's seed passed from the road of the wilderness of Moab's wilderness, and returned and surrounded Edom's wilderness. Weird, they say, returned and surrounded. Surrounded, is it like covered, perhaps? Covered Esau's wilderness? So the whole congregation came to the wilderness of Sin. So now here they are, back in the wilderness of Sin. In the first month of the 40th year. So here we are. We've completed the 40 years in the wilderness. What was going to happen after 40 years? All of Israel's seed who was numbered in Numbers 1 and Numbers 2. No, I guess that was Numbers 1. Died. 603,550 men. All of them are dead now. This is the 40th year. And all that remains is their sons. Probably, and their sons' sons. I imagine there's some that had some. Remember, you weren't numbered unless you were 40 years old or 20 years old and above, able to go to war. So here we are. First month, 40th year. We are in the wilderness of Sin. From our departure from Egypt, and Israel dwelt in Kadesh, in the wilderness of sin. So I think since this is the wilderness of sin, it must be Kadesh Barnea. And what does it say? And Miriam died there. And she was buried there. Now, let me just show you something in the Torah. This is what we're going to cover next week. This is Numbers 20 that we're going to go to next week. Look what it says. Then Israel's seed, the whole congregation, came into the wilderness of sin in the first month. There it is. It doesn't tell us what year. We don't know what year. But thanks to Yasher, we do. And the people stayed in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. This is exactly where we're at right now. So we know this is the 40th year. We're about to enter the promised land. But we got to go roundabout. A couple Amorite kings. Wilderness of sin. Oh, Kadesh Barnea. I was going to show you Kadesh Barnea again, where that's at. Here it is right here. Kadesh Barnea. We're going to talk about Obath here in just a second also. Remember, I thought this Kadesh on the edge of the wilderness of Paran was where they went, but it may be it's this Kadesh Barnea that is in the wilderness of sin. At any rate, they're in the similar place. At that time, we had Miriam died there and was buried there. At that time, Moses sent a messenger to Hadad, king of Edom. He's the second king of Edom, saying, "Thus says thy brother Israel, let me pass, I pray thee, through thy land. We will not pass through field or vineyard. We will not drink the water of the well. We will not walk in the king's road. We will walk in the king's road." So there's the king's highway that we were talking about. That was right through the middle of Edom. And Edom said to them, "Thou shalt not pass through my country." And Edom went forth to meet Israel's seed with a mighty people. They're getting ready to fight. And Esau's seed refused to let Israel's seed pass through their land. And the Israelites removed from them and fought not against them. For before this, Yehovah had commanded Israel's seed, saying, "You shall not fight against Esau's seed." Therefore the Israelites removed from them and did not fight against them. And Israel's seed departed from Kadesh. And all the people came to Mount Hor. Where is Mount Hor? Let's see if we can find it. I think I did find it on the map. Here it is, Mount Hor. They have it right on the edge of Esau's seed. See, they wanted to come around again this way and come right on up the King's Highway. This was the King's Highway because they're going here. Their goal is to get to Le'abarim. This is where Sion has. Remember, this was land from here all the way up to here. There's Heshbon. Where's Heshbon? Is it further up? No, I think Heshbon's got to be here someplace. There it is, Heshbon. Okay. So from here all the way to here, I take that back. I think that Sihon, king of the Amorites, when he had Beor and Balaam pray for him, that he took at least down to the Arnon River. So all of this land in here that was Arnon. Now this is not quite as inhabited. You can see there's no cities even in this area. I think Moab may have gone to this area right here. They were driven back. And this is kind of where they're at right now. But we're going to see that Israel is going to come from Kadesh Barnea, the Ovav, or Abot, perhaps is how you say that, Abot. And they're going to come up this gully, Delay Avarim, to the King's Highway, and they're going to enter this way, or they're going to come this way. So they may even come further to the desert routes and take that towards Sihon, king of the Amorites. Let's find out. We're right here. Mount Hor, there it is, right on the edge there. Departed Kadesh, and all the people came to Mount Hor at that time. And Yehovah said to Moses, tell thy brother Aaron that he shall die there, for he shall not come into the land which I had given to Israel's seed. This is where Aaron's going to die. And Aaron went up at the command of Yehovah to Mount Hor in the 40th year, in the 5th month, on the 1st day of the month. Interesting that Yehovah oftentimes uses first days of months for significant events. And Aaron was 123 years old when he died in Mount Hor. Now, are they going to say anything about Joshua at this time? I guess not. This begins Numbers 21, but keep reading. So I'm supposed to keep reading. And King Arad, the Canaanite, who dwelt in the south, heard that Israel had come by way of the spies. And he arranged his forces to fight against Israel's seed. Where are we? Here's where we're at. This king is right here. He's coming from this area. The way of the spies, they probably took the this mountain route. I think they call it the mountain route. Central Mountain Route, that's what it is. I think they probably came that direction. We're down here. So he's coming against us here because he thinks we're going to invade. But we're not going to invade. We're going to go a different direction. Yehovah's got his own plans. We got to take out a couple Amorite kings first and put the fear of Elohim in all of Israel. All of Canaan. These were mainly Canaanites. There's some Amorites there. But most of the Amorites are on this side of the river. Let's go back. So that was King Arad. Heard that Israelites had come by way of the spies, and he arranged his forces to fight against the Israelites. And Israel's seed were greatly afraid of him, for he had a great and heavy army. So Israel's seed resolved to return to Egypt. Could you believe it? This is the sons of the original Israelites who didn't get to go into the promised land. Why? Because they were afraid. And now the sons of these men who died in the wilderness in the last 40 years, they're afraid. And they want to go back to Egypt. They haven't even seen Egypt, some of them. And Israel's seed turned back about a distance of 3 days' journey onto Meserat Benijakin, for they were greatly afraid on account of the king of Iran. And Israel's seed would not get back to their place, so they remained in Benijakin for 30 days. So that was the 5th month, first day of the month, that in the 40th year that Aaron died. So we must be in the 6th month now. So Israel's seed would not get back to their places, so they remained in Ben-Jakin for 30 days. And when Levi's seed saw that Israel's seed would not turn back, they were jealous for the sake of Yehovah. Look at that. The priests and the Levites are standing up for Yehovah to come against Israel's seed because they won't do what Yehovah wants them to do. And they rose up and fought against the Israelites, their brethren, and slew of them a great body and forced them to turn back to Mount Hor. And when they returned, King Arad was still arranging his hosts for battle against the Israelites. And Israel vowed a vow. Make a vow. How do you make a vow? In the name of Yehovah. Don't swear. What does it say? Thou shalt not take Yehovah's name in vain. That's the vow we're talking about. And Israel vowed a vow, saying, if thou wilt deliver this people into my hand, then I will utterly destroy their cities. And Yehovah hearkened to the voice of Israel, and he delivered the Canaanites into their hands. And he utterly destroyed them and their cities, and he called the name of the place Hormah. Here's Hormah right here. Where is Hormah? Hormah. There it is, Hormah. I put my star on it. There's Hormah right there. But they're not going to go that way yet. And Israel's seed journeyed from Mount Hor and pitched in Obat. And they journeyed from Obat, and they pitched at Avarim, in the border of Moab. This is the border of Moab right now. Remember what I just said? Here it is right here. We were down at Mount Hor. Here's Mount Hor. We went to Obat. Then we went from Obat to Leabarim. We came up this valley. We're right here right now. I'm heading to here, I think. And Israel's seed sent to Moab, saying, let us pass now through thy land into our place. But Moab's seed would not suffer Israel's seed to pass through their land. And Moab's seed were greatly afraid of Israel's seed. Well, they just got wiped out by Moab just 20 years ago. They were greatly afraid lest Israel's seed should do unto them as Sihon, king of the Amorites, had done to them, who had passed through their land and slain many of them. Yeah, they don't want that to happen again. Therefore, Moab would not suffer the Israelites to pass through their land, his land. Therefore, Moab would not allow the Israelites to pass through his land. It's like Moab is still alive. And Yehovah commanded Israel's seed, saying that they should not fight against Moab. So the Israelites removed from Moab. I think they went to the wilderness then. And Israel's seed journeyed from the border of Moab and came to the other side of the Arnon, the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. And they pitched in the border of Sihon, king of the Amorites, in the wilderness of Kedemoth. Do you see? Watch. I want you to see where we're going, how this is going down. We wanted to go this way. They wouldn't let us go. We went this way. So we went on the border, and we came to Kedemoth. Here is the Arnon River that they were just talking about, the border between Sihon and Moab. They didn't bother Moab. So now we're getting ready to go to Kedemoth. I guess you'd say that, Kedemoth. This is where we're going to fight with Sihon, king of the Amorites. I'm almost done. Here we are. And Israel's seed sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, saying, what is he going to say? Let us pass through thy land. We will not, he's saying this to Sihon, we will not turn into the fields or into the vineyards. We will go through by the king's highway. So they're going back to the king's highway until we have passed thy border. But Sihon would not suffer the Israelites to pass. So Sihon collected the people of the Amorites and went forth into the wilderness to meet Israel's seed. And he fought against Israel in Jahaz. Where's Jahaz? Let's find Jahaz. There's Jahaz right there. They wanted to go down to this road here and pass through his land, not bother anybody. I think that they knew that Sihon was not going to allow that there was going to be a brouhaha. And here it is in Jahaz. It might be even Yakaz. Here we are. There it is. And he fought against Israel in Yakaz. And Yehovah delivered Sihon of the Amorites into the hand of Israel's seed. And Israel smote all of Sihon's people with the edge of the sword and avenged the cause of Moab. Yeah, by getting rid of Sihon, at least Moab feels better about this. They're not getting their land back, but they feel better that their enemy has been destroyed. And Israel's seed took possession of the land of Sihon. From, it says Aram, no, this is Arnon. Here it is right here. This is Numbers 21-24. We're going to talk about that 2 weeks. Then Israel defeated him at the edge of the sword and took possession of his land from Arnon to Jabbok. As far as the people of Ammon, for the border of the people of Ammon was fortified. Not going to bother Ammon. Here, let's look at it again. I know I'm jumping back and forth. Here's Jabbok. No, what were we doing? We were doing Arnon. Here we came up. This is Moab. Here's Arnon River. They took it from here all the way up to here. This is all land that was taken by Sihon, king of the Amorites, 20 years before, from Moab. Now we're getting ready to go into Bashan. Actually, I think they may have taken this land as well. I think this was the original land that belonged to Sihon, king of the Amorites. So what does this say? What river is this? This is Yarnon, the Yarnon River. They just said Jabbok, so we're at least down to here. Let's continue. Okay, almost done. Yeah, from Arnon to Jabbok, and onto Ammon's seed. They took all the spoil of the cities. So they're getting a lot of spoil. You know, you take a city, you're going to take a lot of spoil, probably captives as well. And Israel took all their cities, and Israel dwelt in the cities of the Amorites. And Israel's seed resolved to fight against Ammon's seed to take their land also. And Yehovah said to Israel's seed, do not besiege Ammon's seed, neither stir up battle against them, for I will give nothing to you of their land. And Israel's seed hearkened to the word of Yehovah and did not fight against Ammon's seed. And Israel turned and went up by the way of Bashan to the land of Og, king of Bashan. Again, we have to look at their map. Here is Bashan. They are, I think, coming down the King's Highway. I think we're going to go to Astro. Is where we're going to go here. What did they just say? Didn't they just say Bashan, in the land of Bashan, way of Bashan, to the land of Og, king of Bashan? And Og, king of Bashan, went out to meet the Israelites in battle. And he had with him many valiant men and a very strong force from the people of the Amorites. Remember, Sihon and Og are both giants. I'm surprised that this doesn't say that they're giants. They're huge men. This guy in particular, Og, king of Bashan, look what it says. And Og, king of Bashan, was a very powerful man. But Naaran, his son, was exceedingly powerful, even stronger than he was. And Og said in his heart, behold, now the whole camp of Israel takes a space of 3 parsa. How long is that? Acres? What is a parsa? Now I will smite them at once without sword or spear. And Og went to Mount Jahaz and took therefrom one large stone, the length of which was 3 parsa. And he placed it on his head and resolved to throw it upon the camp of Israel's seed. This guy was strong to smite all the Israelites with that stone. I don't know if you've seen some of the trees, we call them mesas. Now, they're flat at the top, but they were old trees that were cut off. And one of the pictures I saw was a huge axe laying on one of these mesas. And if you could imagine the man that was able to wield that axe, I think you're going to picture who Og, king of Bashan, is. And he placed it on his head, and he resolved to throw it upon the camp of Israel's seed, to smite all the Israelites with that stone. And an angel of Yehovah, Yehovah's angel, came and pierced the stone upon his head, upon the head of Og, and the stone fell upon the neck of Og. And Og fell to the earth on account of the weight of the stone upon his head. At that time, Yehovah said to Israel's seed, do not be afraid of him, for I have given him and all his people and all his land into your hand. Remember, this is going to be Manasseh's land, part of Manasseh's land, eventually, into your hand. And you shall do to him as you did to Sihon. And Moses went down. This is Moses. He's going to fight. Moses went down to him with a small number of Israel's seed. And Moses smote Og with a stick at the ankles of his feet, and with a stick at the ankles of his feet, and slew him. What is the stick? Could that be the rod of Elohim? Did this stick have supernatural powers, perhaps? No, it sounds like a rock already fell on his head. So he's already hurting. But now here's Moses using a stick on his ankles of his feet and slew him. Something more is going on here than what we can see. And Israel's seed afterward pursued Og's seed and all his people, and they beat and destroyed them till there was no more remnant left of them. And Moses afterwards sent some of Israel's seed to spy out Ya'azar, for Ya'azar was a famous city. And the spies went to Ya'azar and explored it. And the spies trusted in Yehovah, and they fought against the men of Ya'azar. Do you think Israel's seed is starting to gain some confidence? I wonder. Here, where's Ya'azar? Do we have it on the map? I remember it. I don't think it was on the map. We might talk about Mount Hermon here in a second, but I do not see Ya'azar. Look at how close it is to Damascus. That's really surprising to me. Okay. So the spies went to Yazar and explored it, and the spies trusted in Yehovah, and they fought against the men of Ya'azar. And these men took Ya'azar and its villages, and Yehovah delivered it into their hands, and they drove out the Amorites who had been there. And Israel's seed took the land of the two kings of the Amorites, 60 cities, which were on the other side of the Jordan, from the brook of Arnon, oh, there it is, from the brook of Arnon to Mount Hermon. They got all that land. Moab still has their little spot. And Israel journeyed and came to the plain of Moab, which is on the other side of the Jordan, by Jericho. So they're now across, still on the east side of the Jordan, right across from Jericho. And that's where we're going to stop today. You know, this business about Balaam and Beor and Janus and Beor and Balaam, the whole line, these were men who were, dare I say, the men of the flesh, men who worked by might and fear and intimidation. I guess that's pretty much fear. That's the land that we've been living in. People are so afraid these days. They've been intimidated, threatened and intimidated to where they don't even want to stand up for what they know is right anymore. Now, Israel's seed is starting to build some faith. And I think that's what we need to be doing right now, is building some faith. But like I say, Balaam and his crowd, they were always against Yehovah and his ways. I want us to build the faith in our life to stand up for what Yehovah says and to operate according to what Yehovah says. Remember, become an Israelite. How do you do that? You leave the kingdom of your birth, like I did in 2000, and you come to Israel and you start learning their ways. Then when you're ready, when I finally understood I was supposed to keep the Passover, I kept the Passover. Did it kicking and screaming. I thought Jesus was the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world, don't you know? Oh, silly me. I'd learned lies. Worthless and unprofitable ways. Yehovah tells us how we can become his son in Exodus 12. Leave the kingdom of our birth. Keep his ways. Circumcise ourselves and keep a Passover and become Ezra. That is spiritually born Israel. That's the second born man that Jesus supposedly said that Nicodemus didn't understand. Are you a teacher of Israel and you don't know these things? No, we've got a lot more to learn. Well, next week, as I said, is going to be the end of the 40 years in the wilderness. We're just starting to come into Moab next week. Let's watch for it. I think you'll find it interesting. You guys, thank you for joining me today, and we'll see you next time. If you like this video, please say you like it. Give an affirmation on whatever you're listening to, YouTube or Rumble or Telegram. I'd sure appreciate it. Hey, catch y'all later. Bye now.